Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babylon 9's video with myself and Sloth today. Mark Noble, obviously once a fantastic hero on the pitch, Sloth. He's now into the sporting director role and it's almost like a fresh reset this summer with Lopetegui coming in. Obviously beforehand he was working alongside David Moyes, a person who he was coached under for a few years. So when he moved into that sporting director role, it was a little bit of a different type of relationship than you'd expect to a normal sporting director coming into the football club with a manager that's been in Pole before. So yeah, we've been seeing pictures of Mark Noble right now, kind of out in and amongst the training sessions in pre-season in Austria, and it seems like from a lot of the videos on West Ham YouTube and stuff that he's pretty much involved in a lot of the day-to-day operations at West Ham right now. It looks like he's been a key figure in integrating Lopetegui, Steiden, and the club together. So our job here is to basically discuss A, what Mark Noble's role is going to be this season, and B, how we can get the best out of that role for the football club, because I think it's probably the most underlooked position right now in the club's structure in terms of the importance, because I think Mark Noble being in that sporting director role is offering actually quite a lot of value that people aren't seeing because a lot of the stuff is behind the scenes. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Mark Noble staying on as sporting director post David Moyes, and now as we go into this Julian Lopetegui era?
Well, I'm really happy with it. I think that one of the worst mistakes a football club can make is just this constant sort of rotating door of staff, and I think it's kind of, we've seen it at Chelsea and saw it for a number of years work there, but I think now it's kind of finally coming back to bite them in the backside as such. But having him there, having that stability, having someone who knows the club inside out at every single level, and someone who he's in contact with the fans. Like, he goes to the end of season ticket holder events they used to do and stuff like that. And it's not like he is just sat in a boardroom, doesn't want to communicate with anyone. He's very much the conduit for the fans toward the club. And I think when you have that sort of person on the training ground who can express exactly what the fans are feeling, or just talk to the players and express, this is what the fans are kind of feeling. And look, I'm not going to say he's going to call anyone up and say you need to do a bit better because the fans think you're lazy.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm going at all. But he can be that sort of go-between and give players feedback. He can also get insight into where they feel we need to address in the transfer market. And, Edson Alvarez is a good example of apparently someone who's been mentioning players that he thinks would add to the club. I know that Kuz has as well. And it's that kind of thing that if you're actually in contact with the players, you're more likely to find these pearls that we've seen with Steiten, and it's a case of being there to talk to, being respected because of your role at the club in previous years, but also being able to give the club results on the pitch at the end of the day, and through the form of new signings and increased player happiness.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a few key components to what Mark Noble is going to bring this season. I think, as you mentioned there, that kind of bridge between owner, Lopetegui, Steiden, and himself, it kind of brings everything together quite nicely, because you've got someone who's been at West Ham for since he was 10 years old, maybe even a bit younger than that. So, he's someone that knows day in, day out what is expected of this football club, firstly, and secondly, he understands the structure of how things operate behind the scenes. And having that person is actually very underappreciated in a football club, because it's very uncommon for that to be a case where you've got someone with that much experience and that much passion or love for a football club that understands what's going on and how what direction you need to move and how that kind of correlates with the fans and stuff. So I think in that sense it's really valuable, but also the academy as well. I think it's been, there was a really fantastic video on YouTube maybe a month or two ago with Mark Noble and a few of the other ex-pros taking a training session with the younger lads. And, you know, it was really insightful for some of the stuff that he was saying. And, you know, it definitely resonates with a lot of the West Ham fan base and what we're looking for. And, you know, we've been saying that, you know, this academy of football we have to show it. You know, we have to be giving these youth players chances in things like pre-season. And I think Mark Noble being in Austria right now is probably providing exactly that bridge for Lopetegui to be the kind of main person to integrate into the squad, these young players, and, you know, give them that sense of, look, this is your chance, lads. This is where you can really impress a new manager. And I think just the relationship between Lopetegui and Noble is going to be different to Moyes and Noble, just because they haven't had that previous experience of, you know, being under him in management. And there's kind of a different type of respect. You know, Lopetegui's coming into a situation where he knows Mark Noble knows West Ham and loves West Ham inside out. And it's just a slightly different relationship between the two. So what do you think is the main key aspect of Mark Noble's role this season? Because we've got transfers, we've got the academy, we've got the actual interrelations between, you know, the likes of Lopetegui, Steiden, Sullivan. So out of those kind of components, Sloth, what would you say is his primary goal or purpose this season?
This video is sponsored by Emotive. Emotive provide cutting-edge digital services, solutions, and training to companies and businesses of all sizes. Emotive have worked with some fantastic brands in the past, as you can see behind me, the likes of Apple, Google, Tesco, and of course, Babylon Irons. Emotive offer 4 key services, the first being digital solutions, the second being professional training and coaching, the third being fractional experts, and the fourth being AI readiness. We're going to be working with Emotive on our channel to improve how we showcase the data to you guys in our breakdown videos and data analysis videos. If you want to find out more information about how Emotive can work with you, make sure to scan the QR code now, which will take you to emotivetouch.com, where you can find out more details about the company, and the link will be in the description. A massive thank you to Emotive once again for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to it.
I think it will probably be a mixture between the player integration and also the, you know, the academy work. It's at the end of the day, the transfer windows are only a small part of the year, and I think while it's very likely that when we use these trips, he's going to be scouting. You know, he's going to be looking at players and even contacting clubs and saying, like, you know, we want to set up partnerships. We've set up partnerships in Austria, and it's something that modern football is constantly moving forward in. And I think that while the transfer part is key, it's obviously going to be about him trying to find the right youth players, integrate them into the squad, but integrating new players in general. And I think, look, while he's not going to be speaking Portuguese to Guilherme, he's obviously going to have
we don't know that. We don't know that.
Like, he's obviously going to have a role in this integration, and it's very different for him with Moyes. I think we kind of heard a little bit about how perhaps David Moyes doesn't really like to have too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to transfers. We don't know how much Mark Noble was heard, and maybe Lopetegui's going to be a bit more open to his input. But I think at the end of the day, the bulk of his work is going to come down to the training pitch and working with these players around the facilities, getting a bit of an idea about how they're settling, how they're performing with the youngsters. Do they need a loan? Does he need to maybe raise the issue and say, look, I think Orford is he's ready to make a step up into first team football, but maybe just not here, and he needs a season in the championship or whatever league he feels comfortable. And I think that is going to be a very key aspect of the academy growing forward and developing young talents that can make it at the Premier League level.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we've already spoken in another video where, you know, the top 5 kind of youth talents we're looking forward to seeing in pre-season. So make sure to check that out if you haven't seen it already. But, you know, there is a lot of youth talent at West Ham right now that we feel like could definitely make that step up into the first and into the starting squad for the Premier League next season. And, you know, George Murphy is obviously the standout front runner for that. You know, Freddie Potts is another name, Kadua. So there is there is a versatile amount of talent that we have at our disposal in that youth system. And, you know, as we said in that video, there's a reason we won the FA Youth Cup and, you know, was so dominant in that season as a youth setup because of the talent we had. You know, these players were really, really talented, and, you know, they're very young, and we've got an excellent opportunity now for Mark Noble himself to be pushing these types of players and saying to Lopetegui, look, these are the ones we recommend. Let's see how they do in pre-season, and it'll be up to you to assess it as the manager. That's your job. So I think that's going to be the primary goal of what Mark Noble does. Oh, Mark Noble, bring him back up there. But in terms of, you know, how his relationship will be with everyone in the club, you've obviously got kind of David Sullivan sitting at the top, who we know is wanting to take a little bit more of a step back now, which is great. Then you've got kind of like Steiden and Noble, who are going to be working together with different things. So I think Steiden will be obviously more the scouting and transfer related. Noble will feed into that a little bit, but he'll be more of the day-to-day operations. And then they both connect to Lopetegui. So it's kind of like this really nice triangle where, you know, everyone's going to be feeding into the same information. And like you say, there were rumors that there was some sort of begrudgement to do that under David Moyes and, you know, letting go of a little bit of that control. So Lopetegui's come into the setup and he knows what the setup's going to be. You know, that is the triangle. You know, there isn't going to be any room for, no, I'm having full control, because that's not how it's going to work now. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity, not just for Lopetegui, not just for Steiden, but for Mark Noble himself. I think he's someone that's going to be a massive, massive component to this season if it's going to be successful, because he's the one that's kind of bridging everything together right now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing how much more of Noble we see in these kind of behind the scenes shots, you know, throughout Austria and throughout the rest of the transfer window, and how influential he's going to be with the likes of Steiden in these kind of recruitment processes. Because as you mentioned, he also has, it looks like, quite a good eye for that with Alvarez scouted, with Moffey, one of the key targets as well in that January transfer window recently. So yeah, what are your final thoughts on Mark Noble's position as sporting director going into this season?
I think we know that he has a great eye for players, and, you know, Moffey is one in particular that we just couldn't end up getting over the line. And I think he is someone who will understand how the club wants to play, but also can identify the players to add on to that. And I think he's the general list of targets. You know, you mentioned there. Apparently, he is one of the people looking at Umar Saleh from RB Salzburg. It's a case of he is. You know, we've done a video on him, so if you want to know a little bit more about him, go with that. But he is also someone who fits that profile of sort of pace, bit of size in there as well at 6'4", so he's a big old unit. Ability on the ball, and I think if you can repeat that sort of process, and Lopetegui goes along with that sort of recruitment, that line of recruitment, then that's how you're going to get the best results on the pitch. And I think that if you can also be that added conduit of giving players a boost in the training ground, being there as an actual presence, you know, a lot of sort of sporting directors or players involved in I refer to Noble as a player because I'm just so used to having done it. But, you know, a lot of the staff who are involved in the recruitment aren't generally at the training ground that much. You know, they might pop down every so often and speak to the manager, like generally around the sort of winter window, but they're not going to be there most weeks. Whereas if you have him there as a presence, and it's so much more easier for the players to settle and express how they're feeling as well. And, you know, as we said with the youth players, if someone comes in, if we signed a young player, which we're looking to do a lot more of, and they're struggling, maybe Noble can be the person to listen and say, look, we should get you out on loan. You know, if you're struggling a little bit, here's what we can do, or here's what worked for me when I was struggling. Because, you know, these members of staff in that role don't generally have the experience. So he is an excellent person to be that soundboard and talk to.
I think that's for me what the biggest role for Mark Noble is this season, is the communicator between a lot of change that's happened in this summer. So even going as far as the new captain, you know, that's going to probably be a fresh outlook. It might even be someone like Max Kilman, who's fresh to the club. So if you're a Gil Herme coming into the club, usually the club captain will be the one looking after him. We don't really have that right now. Maybe Zuma's being that figure for now until Lopetegui decides on who he wants his club captain to be. But I have no doubt that Mark Noble has been massively, you know, involved in that process of letting these players embed and settle in, even someone like a Max Kilman as well. So, yeah, I think Mark Noble has gone a little bit underrated with the structure and the setup of West Ham right now. And, you know, there's a lot of moving parts, but I think he's going to be the key figure that keeps everything together on the pitch and off the pitch as well. So, yeah, let us know your thoughts. What are you thinking about Mark Noble's role as sporting director going into the new season? And yeah, what's going to be his biggest influential factor for the campaign? But yeah, if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. And Sloth, until the next one.
Come on, you
Come on, you
Arms.
Arms.